Once again, I would like to welcome everyone to our first training of the year, as well as, it's a free training. So we have advertised it in our different groups. We do have a WhatsApp group for Eden Greenfields where farmers do discuss different topics regarding different types of vegetables and crops, and then help each other and give advice. And sometimes also you are free to advertise any agricultural products that you might be selling. We do have also an Eden Greenfields community whereby we have got members that have subscribed that we give trainings as well and assist remotely. And then we created a group today for this free online onion training. So I would like to welcome you all. Like Shelley has said, when it comes to questions, you can put down your questions on the chat, or else you can, we can still continue with questions in our respective WhatsApp groups. So without wasting time, let's jump in to the training. So firstly, the topics that we are going to cover today include, of course, some introduction. We are going to look at the different varieties of onions that we have, and mostly for Namibian farmers, Namibian producers. We are going to look at soil preparation, seeds. We'll also talk about seed rates, so you can be able to understand when we talk about seed rates as well. Planting, irrigation, fertilization. We'll look at pests and diseases, the most common ones. Of course, as you are growing your onions, you are going to see that we might even meet some pests, some diseases that might be new to you that we might have not discussed on this training today. Please feel free to share with us in your respective groups so that we can be able to assist you. Then we'll also talk about harvesting and storage of onion. Right. So before we start with the favorable conditions for onions, I would just like to give maybe a chance to one or two people to just tell us about whether they have been growing onions and what has been their experience so far. So you are welcome. Any two people, please raise your hands. I don't see any sign of anyone raising their hands. Does it mean we are all going to be first-time onion growers? All right, so if there's no one, I guess that means we are all here to learn. So let's go ahead and discuss. So basically, when it comes to onions, they like some cool climate. They favor cool climate, especially in the initial growth stages. And as they grow, once the bulbs start forming, higher temperatures are the ones that will give you a better yield. Like in terms of bulb growth, the climate conditions that are more favored by onion needs to have some bit of higher temperatures. Now, there is what we call bolting, which we'll discuss again in the coming slides, bolting may actually occur due to low temperatures during bulb development. So bolting is a process whereby any given plant, vegetables, they can actually go into bolting when conditions change suddenly. And they actually feel like, okay, here I might not make it through my growing season. So let me rather produce some seeds. So that is what we call bolting. Okay, we'll discuss it again later. And then the best type of soils that you can grow your onion, mostly it's sandy loam soil. And it has to be well-drained soil, and it has to be fertile soil, which means you need to make sure that your soil is well prepared. And then the pH of your soil should range between 6.0 to 7.5. So which means that's why sometimes it's very important for you to be able to have your own, you can actually have your own pH tester, which you can buy either at Pupkevis, you can buy it at Ferreira Gardens, and then you can check the pH. That way it can be cheaper for you. And then if you want, there's an option to take your soil samples to Ministry of Agriculture or any other service provider who deals with soil testing. Then they will test your soil and give you the results. And as Eden Greenfields, we also do translation of the results from your lab, and then we can recommend a fertilization program for you as you grow your plants. Right. So we talked about bolting. I'm sure some of you who have visited a garden, a farm, or who have grown onion have actually seen onion leaves having flowers. So like I said, this is what we call bolting. So bolting happens when there is weather changes, sudden weather changes. I'm sure you have noticed that sometimes we are experiencing this due to climate change, and sometimes our winters are extending into the summer months. So that change of heat and cold, today it's very hot, tomorrow it wakes up and we wake up and the temperatures are very low. That can actually signal our plants to go into bolting, and then they develop seeds. Right. So that is one of the things that we are actually seeing at the moment. Yeah, but the seeds also, some people prefer to later have the seeds and use them for planting again. But that mostly works when we have, let's say, if you are using organic seeds, yeah, you can be assured of getting a good yield with those seeds. But if you are using the other hybrid or GMO seeds, you might not get a very good yield. Right. So let's look at onion cultivars that we have. I'm sure you have gone into shops, you have bought some seeds. So what you need to be aware of is all the outlets that we have. For example, we have Agra, we have got AgriGrow, we have got Ferreira Gardens, we've got different even ShopRite. Most of these shops that are selling seeds, the seeds that they are selling, these are seeds that are known to be able to grow with our climate conditions for Namibia. So on this list, you are going to see that we have got different types of cultivars, Texas grano. We've got early Cape Flat, Devout, Pyramid, Bon Accord, Red Burgundy. These types of onion are onions that already the agronomists, the horticulturists, they have been tested. And these have been seen that they are the best for growing here in Namibia. So these are also referred to as short day cultivars. So why are they called short day cultivars? It is because they require a short, a small number of hours, if I can say, per day, compared to what we call the intermediate and the other long day cultivars. So, for example, we have got the Hoyam cultivar, which is a mid-season large cultivar with a round shape and darkish scales. They have a fairly long growing period of around 220 to 230 days. So these, you'll find that mostly they are used to grow in the home gardens, as well as for those who want to do a fresh market business. Texas grano as well. And then Texas grano is an early mid-season, early to mid-season season cultivar that yields heavily with extra large top-shaped bulbs. And it takes also around 220 to 230 days to maturity. So the other thing that I've seen in the market these days, we have got consumers who prefer smaller onions. We've got consumers that prefer the medium size, and some go for the large onion. But according to my market research that I've been doing recently, the most favored size is the medium size and small size. But the medium size moves very, very fast on the market. I've gone to even to Akatutura Stop and Shop market. You'll find that the medium-sized onion has got the best market with consumers that side. So we do have also like the Granex, an F1 hybrid onion, which can be planted for early harvesting in the season, or it can be planted late in the season, and it also gives a good growth, and it comes with a medium size. So normally it takes around 170 to 200 days. All right. So we also have the red onion. When it comes to the red onion, we have got the red Burgundy and then the red Creole. The red Burgundy are also medium-sized in shape, right? And mostly we see these are used in salads, in garnishes, when you do your weddings, when you do your different functions in the restaurants, all that. This is a preferred type of cultivar, and also typically it takes about 90 to 110 days, depending on the growing conditions. Right. All right, let's move on to the next slide. Right. So let's take note. Most onion cultivars are sensitive to day length, and bulbing is initiated when the minimum daylight requirement of the particular cultivar is exceeded. So remember, we spoke about the short day cultivars. So our onion varieties are mostly grouped into two groups. So we have got the short day, which means to a maximum of 12 hours. And then we have got intermediate, which is mostly favors 12 hours and more. And then we have got long day cultivars. Those require approximately 16 hours of daylight. So they are not suitable for planting here in the southern region. So we look at places like Cape Town, for example, and even we look at Walvis Bay. So you'll find that sometimes we do have places like that might have long days. You know, the sun comes up early, then it sets very late. So there you can either have your short day or you can go into the intermediate cultivars. But most of our growing in Namibia in all the regions favors the short day cultivars, which means we are looking at a maximum of 12 hours there. All right. So let's look at planting your onion. So planting of your onion, number one, we need to make sure that we have got seed beds. So the seedlings that you need to raise, I've seen if you have got a small garden, a backyard garden, you can probably look for a tray, right? You can do tray growing where you raise your seedlings in a tray and then you can transplant into the ground. But when you are doing it at a large scale, then you need to make sure that you have got seed beds that you prepare. And normally we recommend seed beds of 1 meter in width, and then the length depends with you. Also determined by the size of space that you have that you are going to grow. So if you are going to grow for 1 hectare, 1 hectare, you see that when we talk about seed rates, 1 hectare, you might need a space of 300 square meters in order for you to grow seedlings that are going to be enough for you to cover a hectare. And those seed beds should be well drained and should be level. You should not have any water logging there. And then fertilizers that can be used, it's manure. So manure, when we talk about manure, animal manure, we strongly recommend that you use manure that is dry. Dry manure. You cannot use fresh manure in your garden. Dry manure is the best. And then you can also use compost, mix compost with your soil. And then you can also use fertilizers, for example, like NPK, which is nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. And in those ratios of 2, 3, and 4, you can actually use that fertilizer as a basal fertilizer, which means you apply it before you plant or you apply it when you are planting. Then the other process that you need to do before you plant is a process that we call solarization. Now, solarization is a process whereby you are going to cover your bed and all that, and we are going to look at that slide and I'll explain more. And then we have got seed treatment. So sometimes some seeds might need treatment before being planted. So seeds can be treated to control seed-borne diseases, such as damping off. We'll have a slide that will show you what damping off is, and other fungal diseases. So some seeds might need treatment, and the solarization process can also help to make sure that we don't have pathogens in the soil that can affect our plants. Recommended planting time for onion is now. We are in February. So that's why we decided also to give this training to our farmers so that you are ready for this planting season. So as from now, February, until April to May, this is the time that you need to grow. So you're going to see that the days that we were talking about that our onion plants are going to take in order for them to be ready for harvest, this can take between 3 months up to 8 months, depending with the variety. The red burgundy, we said it can take about 90 to 110 days. So those are early maturity varieties. But then most of our onions, they take from 6 months until 8 months. All right, so I mentioned solarization. So solarization is a process whereby we use a clear plastic, right? Clear plastic or a translucent plastic. So what you do is you prepare your beds. After you've prepared your beds, put your manure. You do if you have got like those who have bought our neem oil that we sell, you spray your neem, you water that place, that bed. And after you've done that, you cover those beds with a clear plastic. And then you also cover the edges of the plastic. You must bury them with soil so that nothing goes into that bed. So why solarization? Solarization is going to kill weeds in your beds. It's going to destroy any grass in your beds. And it's also going to make sure that any pathogens are also destroyed, okay, in the soil, so that you don't get affected, like we mentioned, damping off. So that also is an advantage when you do solarization. Black plastic, if you have black plastic, you can use it, but the most favorable option is a clear plastic. Now, one will ask, how long does it take for this solarization process? So here in Namibia, normally you'll find that we experience higher temperatures, which means once with a plastic like that, we can give it, let's say, 2 weeks, or else what you do is you do your bed preparations. Then the time your seedlings are growing, that is around 6 to 8 weeks, because your seedlings have to be raised for around 6 to 8 weeks. Then you can be covering those beds with your plastics until the time you are ready to transplant. That is also the best advice that I can give you, so that your beds are well sterilized and they are ready for your seedlings. All right. So we mentioned about planting seed rates. Okay, planting seed rate. So, for example, let's talk about you walk into the shop, you buy a pack of seeds, onion seeds. That might be roughly around 28 grams. That can contain around 7,000 seeds. Okay, 7,000 seeds. And if you have got a 1 kg of seeds, that will contain plus minus between 250,000 to 270,000 seeds. All right. A seed bed of 300 square meters sown at a rate of 10 grams per square. That means 1 meter by 1 meter, 10 grams you can plant on 1 meter by 1 meter when you raise your seedlings for onion, will be sufficient for 1 hectare. All right. So how many kgs do you need per hectare? That is the question. So we are looking at around 3 kgs of onion seeds that you need in order for you to be able to cover a hectare. Sometimes it can be even more, depending on how you plant. I've gone to farms, gardens, where they are doing a hectare of onion. That can be around 1 million plants that they can actually plant in that space. Right. So when it comes to planting onion, when you have grown your onion, we are still on the seed beds. So as you grow your seeds, you are sowing your seeds, you are growing your seedlings, we recommend that the planting, the rows should be 15 centimeters apart. And then the planting depth should actually be 1 centimeter. Of course, 1 centimeter, between 1 centimeter and 2 centimeters. Yeah. And then after you have done that, you lightly cover the beds with, mostly we recommend compost, right? You don't need to dig too deep when you are planting your seeds, because that will make them to take a long time for them to germinate. And also try to make sure that you grow, you actually make your holes equally. So with an equal level, so that you have got equal growth. I think that will be the best. So you can be able to transplant most of your onion at the same time. So normally what we do when we are growing our onions at our garden, we normally take the seedlings that are big first. Those which are still small, we normally leave them and give them time to grow again, and then we can transplant them at a later stage. All right. Then we have got the growing process. So germination takes about 7 to 10 days after sowing your seeds on your seed beds. Then transplanting normally takes 6 to 8 weeks after sowing. Transplanting spacing, right, between your onions in the row, it's going to be 10 centimeters. And then your rows must be 30 centimeters apart. That's what we recommend, so that your weeding also can be easier if you are going to be doing manual weeding. Some people prefer to use herbicides. Herbicides are chemicals that kill weeds. That you can have herbicides for pre-planting, and then some are applied post-planting, right? Then good leaf and stem development, that actually refers to our fertilizers, right? Remember we mentioned about NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Nitrogen is good for good leaf and stem development. Phosphorus, root and flower development. And then potassium, good plant health and resilience. So in this growing process, when you have applied your fertilizers, your manure, these are the things that we want to achieve. Once we have this, then we are assured of having strong and healthy seedlings as well as the plants. Right. So talking about fertilization, one has to know and understand the fertilization program. So I do believe that on this training, we do have farmers who prefer to do organic gardening or farming, and then we have others that prefer to go to the chemical fertilizers. So when it comes to 1 hectare, if you have got a 1 hectare plot and you would want to do organic onion, you will need to have around 50 tons of manure, right? That is 50,000 kgs of manure that you need to apply on that 1 hectare plot before you plant, right? And you might need again some manure as your plants are growing. So that is actually going to be a lot. And when it comes to the local gap that Shelley mentioned, the standards of local gap, which might start in April, if all goes well with the Namibia Agronomic Board, that they want to implement local gap, there is a stage that you can only apply your manure, and after that you can't apply manure, especially when it comes to leafy vegetables. And for those who might want to grow onions like the leeks and the other ones, the ones that mostly people use their leaves, right? So there can be a limitation there, right? And then, so let's look at the fertilization program. So we are going to look at the chemical fertilization program. So before your planting or during your planting, you need to apply a basal fertilizer. So this is going to be an NPK fertilizer that we are looking at here. And the requirements per hectare, not this is requirements per hectare. If you need assistance with calculations, please feel free to ask us in the groups, and then we can be able to assist you. So you have got a requirement of nitrogen per hectare is 63 kgs. Phosphorus is going to be 94 kgs. And then potassium is going to be 63 kgs. And you are going to see that the parts, like I said, this NPK is a 2-3-4, which means 2 parts of nitrogen, 3 parts of phosphorus, and 4 parts of potassium. So there are calculations that we normally do using the numbers that I've just mentioned, the 2-3-4. There are calculations that we normally do in order for us to know how many bags you need in order to what? To prepare for your planting season. So normally we calculate for you to get the number of bags required. Then we need to calculate required nutrient amount, which is in this case, according to our calculation, will be 2/9 multiplied by 63 for nitrogen. Then we divide that with amount of nutrient. Sorry, let me come back again. So the required nutrient amount per hectare, we said it's 63 for nitrogen. And then we divide with amount of nutrient in 1 kg of the NPK. So to get that, we have to now divide the 2 parts of nitrogen divided by the overall 9 parts multiplied by 63. Once we have that number, we are going to divide it with 63. Then we will be able to know how many bags of fertilizers we need. But then since we have got different requirements of kgs per hectare, you are going to see that nitrogen will say we require 3 bags. Then if you calculate with phosphorus, it can say we require 5 bags. And then with potassium, it might tell you that we require 1 bag. So at the end of the day, you need to work with the those numbers all together. What you get, you need to add all the numbers of the bags to get how many bags you are going to buy. Now, very funny enough, when we use these calculations, you are going to see that in a bag of 50 kg for fertilizer, probably you have got only 1 kg of nitrogen. You have got maybe 3 kgs of phosphorus, and maybe you have got 1.5 kg of potassium. Then you wonder, but okay, if we have got so much, the nutrients that we are after are so less, but yet the bag is 50 kg, right? During manufacturing of fertilizers, they use what they call fillers. Now, fillers are the ones that make the fertilizer bulky for easy application in the what? In the field. Are we together? So when we say you need to buy 3 bags, for example, of ammonium nitrate for 1 hectare, the nutrients, it doesn't mean you have got